Okay.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen meeting for Wednesday, February 21st. Mr. Pino, do we have a need for a non-public this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We do under RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2, lowercase e, litigation, 2 items.
Thank you. Next, first thing on our agenda is the consideration of minutes for February 7th. Do we have any corrections, comments?
I'll make a motion that they be approved.
Second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Brian to approve them. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Opposed?
going to abstain.
And one abstention. Okay. Have a series of public hearings this evening. First one, Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st for the acceptance of unanticipated funds greater than $10,000 in accordance with RSA 31:95B3A relative to Wolfeboro Milfoil Committee to receive a 2024 exotic aquatic plant control grant from the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for expenses incurred in the prevention of exotic species aquatic plant control in the amount up to $31,394. You going to talk to this one, Linda? or-
I will. The Milfoil Committee applied for a grant from New Hampshire DES. We get awarded the grants from time to time, and this one is at 50%. So DES has awarded us $23,400 towards our herbicide and up to $7,964 for either the dash or dive going in and pulling the milfoil. I went and checked our budget. We have in the budget $34,500, which will cover the match for both of these. So it is within our budget. So I would say we need to accept this grant. We're lucky it's 50%. We've had it sometimes as low as 30%.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. If anybody in the audience has any questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions? Or if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to authorize the town manager to sign a grant application and accept for the $31,394.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next public hearing for an alcohol beverage permit. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st to consider the application for an issuance of an alcoholic beverages permit to the Lakes Region Curling Association for their end-of-season award ceremony on March 10th, 2024 at the Abenaki Ski Lodge at 390 Pine Hill Road from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Do you have anyone here to speak to this one?
Hi, my name is Andrea Dudley, and I'm the treasurer of the Lakes Region Curling Association. And this will be the third time we have used Abenaki Lodge as a gathering to celebrate the end of our season. We used it last fall, most recently. So it's great because people can finish their games at the Pop Whalen Arena. They can walk across the parking lot, and we provide sandwiches and cookies and that kind of thing for people to mark the end of the season. So we're asking for, again, that we be allowed to have our guests bring either beer or wine for their own consumption. And we have generally 40 to 50 people there, and I would estimate the last 2 times we've done it, maybe 20 to 30 take advantage of that opportunity.
Okay. And I'm assuming, as I didn't see the paperwork, that this has been gone through by Christine up at Parks and Rec, and, okay,
Yes, they have approved the use of the date and the use of the alcohol permit to the
Right.
extent that they can approve that.
pending our approval, right? Right. Okay, at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. If anybody in the audience has any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions or comments?
No, I did talk to the insurance company just to make sure that there was an alcohol binder on their policy. They said, yes, there was, and so I'm fine with the permit.
Would you like a motion?
Yes.
I move to issue an alcohol beverage permit to the the Lakes Region Curling Association for Abenaki Ski Lodge on February 21st.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Dave to approve this. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All set?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we have some temporary event permits. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the Abenaki Ski Team and Wolfeboro Parks and Rec to hold a Nordic race on February 25th, 2024, on the Abenaki Nordic Ski Trails from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., permit number 2024-10. Have anybody here to speak to this one? Yep.
So the Abenaki Ski Team is helping to run a town-sponsored ski race, but it's just because it traverses onto private
You just come a little closer to the mic so they can hear you on TV.
Just because it traverses onto private property, we
Yep.
needed to file the permit.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay. And could you state your name, too, just for the record?
Ann DeBeer.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
then I'm also speaking for the Abenaki Fun Day. I don't know if that follows.
I will do these one at a time.
Okay.
Okay. At this time, I'll open up a public hearing for this one for the Nordic race. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions or comments?
Nope. Move to issue a temporary event permit for the Abenaki Ski Team and Wolfeboro Parks and Rec to hold a Nordic race on February 25th, 2024 on the Abenaki Nordic Ski Trails from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., permit number 2024-10.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All set for that one. Let's see, the next one, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the Abenaki Outing Club to host a fun day on March 23rd, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Abenaki, permit number 2024-11. Back again.
So Ann DeBeer from Abenaki Ski Team. So this would be the second time that we are holding this event, just to create awareness about the ski area and encourage people to utilize it. The reason I guess we need to ask specific permission is because we would like to offer free tickets, which is detailed in the proposal.
Okay?
So same structure as last year,
All right.
essentially. Yep.
Okay, at this time, we'll open up a public hearing if anybody has any questions or comments from the audience. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, questions, comments, motion?
Move to issue a special event permit for the Abenaki Outing Club to host a fun day on March 23rd, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Abenaki, permit number 2024-11.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're all set.
Thank you.
Okay, our next one, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to host the Back Bay Skippers at the Bridge Falls Path on Tuesdays and Thursdays, rain day of Wednesdays, from March 26th, 2024 through November 4th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., permit number 2024-18.
Hi, Annie Lennon, Program and Events Manager for the New Hampshire Boat Museum. This will be the 16th year of the Back Bay Skippers, and they're a great group of skippers. They're very open to helping anybody get out there and learn to sail, so we'd like to be back again this year.
Can't believe it's been 16 years already that this has
16
been going
years.
on.
Just yesterday.
It seems it, yeah. Okay, I'll open up a public hearing if anybody in the audience has any questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Move to issue a temporary event permit for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to host the Back Bay Skippers at the Bridge Falls Path on Tuesdays and Thursdays, rain day on Wednesday, from March 26, 2024 to November 4, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., permit number 2024-18.
Second.
And
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Linda?
I think we need to add on to that, and they will provide us their insurance when it comes.
It was requested, it should have
I
been
just don't
sent
have
to
a
you.
copy. Did you send in a copy?
No, the insurance company sends it directly to Amy.
Okay, so we still
It
need.
was requested.
Yeah, we just need to put it conditional, and then Amy will
Okay.
know that she has to get
Okay.
that insurance. That's all that is.
right.
It's no big deal.
Okay, so we'll add that caveat to the insurance, to the motion and second.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's that one. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to hold the Sasquatch Footy Regatta at the Bridge Falls Path on June 15th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., permit number 2024-19.
That's us again, and this is the 8th year of the regatta, and I will make sure the insurance is sent tomorrow.
The one will take care of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll open up a public hearing. If anybody in the audience has any questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Move to issue a temporary event permit for the New Hampshire Boat Museum to host the Sasquatch Footy Regatta at Bridge Falls Path on June 15, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., pending insurance binder, permit numbers 2024-19.
Second?
Motion by Brian, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
You're all set. Our next public event permit is before Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the American Legion Post 18 to present the Memorial Day Parade and ceremony at the Veterans Monument and Dockside on May 27th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., permit number 2024-20.
Well, good evening. My name is Paul Vivian. I'm from the American Legion. And once again, on Memorial Day, the 27th, we're proposing to have a traditional Memorial Day ceremony, which will consist of a parade, not a very long one, starting at Brewster. We'll have the Kingswood High School Band leading the way, and we'll march right down South Main Street to Dockside. We'll turn into Dockside. We'll have a ceremony where we lower the flag and we say a prayer, and then we go out to the dock and we put flowers in the water, and then we go over to the bandstand where there are a few comments, and then we dismiss for the day. And that's our traditional route there.
Okay. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing. If anybody has any questions or comments. Close the public hearing. Board members?
Mr. Chairman, I would just note that depending on schedule, there could be some construction going on in that area relative to the water line, just as an FYI.
Yeah, that's a good point. Obviously, the road they won't be working on that day, but could be a little obstacle there to work around.
We'll take that in consideration and
Yep.
make modifications as necessary.
Yep, sounds good. Any other questions or comments?
Do they need insurance for this also?
Yes, they
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
But I think there was somewhere I read that it didn't come out yet. Do you have your insurance, or
We
does it?
do, and our
it-
insurance company will issue its paperwork 30 days out.
Okay, so we'll just put it on the
And
motion.
that's true for both
Yeah.
Memorial Day and the 4th of July parade.
All right, move to issue, contingent upon insurance, a temporary event permit for the American Legion Post 18 to present the Memorial Day Parade and ceremony at the Veterans Monument and Dockside on May 27, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., permit number 2024-20.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, February 21st, to consider a temporary event permit for the American Legion Post 18 to host 4th of July parade on July 4th, 2024, rain date of July 5th, 2024, from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., permit number 2024-21.
Mr. Chairman, I did not receive a copy of this permit in my packet. I did get Amy to email me the application, and the permit, none of the department heads have signed off, and they are also asking to use Cape Park from July 3rd to the 7th. And I'd like to table this. We have a bunch of concerts going on, and I would like to have time for you to contact those people and make sure that there is a way that you can get your, whatever you want in before we grant this permit.
That's fine. Our proposal for that, we always set up a headquarters tent. And it's to put it right in the lower part of the Cape Park, which last year we were in the upper part of Cape Park, and we'll be out of everybody's way. We just found it was easier for us to have contact with the people we believe it will be if we're down at the lower part.
Are you going to set it up and take it down all the time?
I'm sorry.
Are you going to set it up one day and then take it down at night and then set?
No, what we've done in the past, the last 3 years, is we set it up, we keep it up all night, and then we take it down at the very end. And it's where we provide, people come up. Let me put this in a little perspective. The parade itself is part of the 3rd annual Independence Day Festival. And what we'll do is we have literature there to pass out for the festival. Again, this year, we've got the Quilts of Valor lined up. We got the Quilting Society. We think we've got the Art Society lined up. So we'll have these other activities going on, and that tent itself serves as a sort of headquarters for that. We're going to be out of the way from the folks in the concert. In fact, that also falls under that broad umbrella of the Independence Day Festival. So we don't anticipate any problems.
I guess what I'm looking at is that it takes up the space. That space is packed. I have less problem if you're up above in the upper area, but when you go down into the area, that's where they all put the chairs and sit. And I don't want people not to be able to go to the concert because we've got a tent there, and that's my concern. So it seems like if you want to be back up in the upper part, I don't have any problem, but I think that it's very packed with chairs, people bringing their chairs.
Well, we think we have a small footprint. Of course, if there are objections, then we'll put it back where we were last year, but we found we were better able to service the public, we think, if we're down further, but we're flexible on that.
My feeling is maybe we can have Amy talk and see what the different organizations and how they feel and where they would want you to put it in order to be out of the way of the people listening to the concert. So that's why I'd like to table to March 6th, that we get enough time to do that, and we get our department heads to sign off so we have everything in place. I hate to have to bring you back, but we all didn't get all the information.
Well, that's fine. We're flexible on that.
So I'll make that motion to table the 4th of July temporary event permit, or to continue the temporary event permit until March 6, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Luke to table this event to March 6th. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
If I may just put out a little advertisement, what we're doing this year at the American Legion. 28th of this month, we're sponsoring the children's skating party at the ice rink, which we pay for the skating time, hot dogs, hot chocolate, and I think it should be a lot of fun for everyone. As far as Memorial Day is concerned, the weekend before that, we're placing flags in all the veterans' graves. We're bringing the Boy Scouts with us, and of course, We have to bribe them with hot dogs and hamburgers afterwards, but they always seem to have a grand time. And then, as I mentioned, the 4th of July, we're part of the Independence Day Festival. This will be the third one we've had, and besides bringing in the Quilting Society and the Quilts of Valor, the Lions Club is again going to have their antique car show down off of Center Street. And then in June, we're going to sponsor the Children's Fishing Derby again. We're going to do it with the Lions Club, and that's always been a popular outing for everyone. And also in June, we'll have our annual retirement of old flags, in which we bring, again, the Boy Scouts in with us to help us with that ceremony. We're also working on a suicide prevention program, which we want to reach out to not only veterans, but particularly with youth, because there's been an increase nationwide in youth suicide, and we're working on that. And again, we're going to have our Veterans Day ceremony on 11th of November. And last year was a great success. We worked with the Wright Museum that allowed us to have the ceremony there, and we had the captain of the USS Texas come in and talk to us, and he brought some of his sailors with him, and that was a great hit with the public. Everyone wanted to see them. And then again, working with the Scouts, we're going to retrieve the flags in November from the graves, and then in December we're going to have our toy drive again, and we were able to provide a truckload for this year, and the police department was nice enough to collect them from all of us. So anyway, we're going to have, I think, a good year in front of us, and we're looking forward to trying to do as much as we can to help the community and veterans as well. So with that, I'll shut up and get out of your way.
Thank you very much.
I applaud you for all you do for the community.
Okay, next on our agenda is the bulk vote. We have a weekly manifest. For February 9th was $653,499, and for February 16th was $279,302. We have one property tax credit and one property tax refund. So items A through C.
I'll make a motion to accept the bulk vote A through C.
Second.
Motion by Linda, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Board committee appointments. We have one board appointment, committee appointment, I guess, for the Lakes Region Planning Commission TAC Committee, for Tavis Austin to be our ongoing member here. This term will expire in 2026. His current one expires soon, I guess, in 2024 here, so.
When do these meetings take place? Is it at night or during the day?
Against my personal better judgment, the TAC committee as a group decided they were going to be Mondays from 1 to 4.
And how often? Every Monday?
No, once a month.
Once a month?
Yep. Yep. A lot of fun. I spent a lot of years over there doing that, so. Any other questions or comments for Tavis? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to appoint Tavis Austin to the Lakes Region Planning Commission TAC Committee for a term to expire in February 2026.
Second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Luke. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Tavis. New business. Commercial vessel landing permit for the Big Sandy 2. Is somebody here for that one?
We've done this for a few years now, I do believe.
Yes. Basically, that camp there that brings the kids in, or they're coming in 9 times during the course of the summer.
Yep.
Where I get some ice cream and stuff like that in town.
My only question would be, make sure that they know the hours that the Mount Washington comes in. That's the only thing I could see any issue with. At 2:15, I think they're okay. I think the Mount comes in at 1:45.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We will confirm that in the letter
Okay.
that we send to them with the permit.
Somebody like to make a motion on this one?
Motion to approve commercial vessel landing permit, Big Sandy 2 for summer 2024.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is approval for posting of the town roads.
Steve Randall's not able to be here this evening. He is looking to post roads right now. He's looking at March the 4th. However, if we run into a significant warm stretch of weather, he would also like permission to be able to post earlier than that. But that right now tentatively is the latest that he would post them would be March 4th.
Yep. Linda?
Yeah, I usually, we get a list of the roads, and I would like to have the list of the roads put on the town website, so people know if they want to go look to see what we're going to post. That's the only problem I have, or only issue I have.
I think that's reasonable. I think that list does probably exists. You can just,
Yeah,
it
just
does.
reprint it. It's the
That's it.
same road, just
Yep.
put it up there. I just think that that's the kind of notice we should give the
Yeah.
public.
any other questions, comments?
They need to be.
So
Somebody like to make a
they're going to be
motion?
posted just till whenever? Until they determine, until
Basically.
he determines when?
When frost is out of the ground, usually is what they do,
Yeah,
so that
I
the,
believe by statute, they can only be posted for a maximum length of 10 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
That's good to know.
and they post the roads, so you know, and when the signs come down, you know that it's okay. And we allow contractors or deliveries earlier in the day. If the roads are frozen, they can get a special permit to go in.
I've actually been checking the ground, and a lot of it, it's only frozen this far down. I was shocked.
under the pavement, you might find it a little bit deeper because the traffic will drive the frost down. But it's when it starts, you get the freeze-thaw cycles, when you get the top 6 inches will thaw, but it's still frozen underneath.
And then you punch
The water
them.
has no place to drain, and it just turns very unstable under the pavement, and it breaks up the pavement, so,
And on the dirt roads, you can just bury a car and,
yep. They could be graded up and fixed a lot easier than can a pavement road, so.
it depends upon when it happens.
Right,
When it's that
yeah.
pool of water and it's frozen underneath, it's
Right.
not very easy to do that.
So move to post town road for load limits effective March 4th, 2024, with a list of said roads being on the town website, and not to be posted longer than 10 weeks.
Can you put in there 2 or earlier if, at the discretion of the Public Works Director?
Okay. So March 4th, 2024, or earlier at discretion of Public Works Director.
I'll second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is the E911 addressing without voluntary compliance.
So a brief background, anytime a new structure is built or anytime somebody separates a tenant space within a building, typically starts with an application for assigning a new E911 address. Most of the time it's done through voluntary compliance, but what we're starting to experience is more and more situations that don't comport with the system the way it always was. One of those has come up very recently, and staff, and by that I mean me as planning director, who's currently the 911 liaison, but by extension, police and fire, and as well as the 911 component of the Department of Safety, people don't want to change their address. So the purpose for tonight is to find out what's going on. I know you have a very perhaps overly robust memo in front of you that goes through the history of 911 in Wolfeboro, plus the full complement of addressing standards, plus the problems that can arise with both the Swansea overview and the Swansea complete ruling as to what towns could be subject to without following the 911 addressing standards. So in this particular instance, there is a parcel of land that is immediately adjacent to Ferber Lane, but has no rights to access Ferber Lane. When that lot was created, it was, as part of its creation, granted a right-of-way from Beach Pond Road. So if you're looking at the image in between Lot 30 and 25, or 149 and 151 Beach Pond Road respectively, there is a right-of-way that extends into that larger parcel 22, which provides access to parcel 23. That parcel has been vacant for many years. Since I've been here, 4 different people have attempted to, I'll say politely, fight with Ferber Lane to gain access to Ferber Lane, and that led nowhere. Ultimately, the current owner came in, submitted a building permit, and of course, when you submit a building permit, one of the first jobs is to give it an address. I worked with the property owner of Lot 22, happens to be a Ferber Lane resident, ironically enough. But because they were the property owner, I wanted to give them the opportunity to come up with a proposed name for the right-of-way, since you have to name the right-of-way if you're going to give it an address. That part was simple. The property owner suggested Lady Slipper Lane. By distance, Lot 23 becomes 28 Lady Slipper Lane. So I submitted that addressing request off in the official electronic format to E911. 911 responded and said, "Did you happen to notice that 149 and 151 also take their driveway access off of that driveway?" Anytime, I'm sure you all read through the addressing standards, but when I know, but to jump ahead, when 3 houses are addressed off a driveway, the addressing standard says it has to be named. Unfortunately, Lot 30, AKA 149 Beach Pond Road, and Lot 25, 151 Beach Pond Road, are not accessed off of Beach Pond Road in accordance with the addressing standard. I'll say, for candor, not surprisingly, neither one of those property owners are willing to voluntarily change their address. Most notably, they don't want to change their address because someone else is doing something which is causing them to potentially change. So now the question becomes yours. Under the statute, 231-133 and 231-133A, the Board of Selectmen can hold a public hearing and require an address change. You don't have to, but that's what the statute affords you the ability to do. So the purpose of tonight is not to say, yes, we Board of Selectmen are going to require 149 and 151 to change their address. But as I tried to suggest in the memo, with the consent of the Fire and Police Department, it's our collective opinion that we should be following the addressing standards set by E911. Now, clearly, I pointed out earlier, there are a number of instances in Wolfeboro that do not comply with the current E911 standards. The simple North Main, South Main does not comply. East Wakefield Road, you can go from this end or you can go from this end, but there's no North Wakefield Road in the middle. Technically, they should have different names. I tried to summarize that in the memo by saying most of those issues, if you want to call them that, existed prior to E911 coming to Wolfeboro. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised that many of those have just been sleeping dogs that were let lie. I do not feel I'm doing my job correctly if I put the town in that potential liability situation by making that decision on my own. So I wanted to make the selectmen aware of it. We have Zachary Branscombe from E911 if you have questions on the addressing standards or how we got from here to there to tonight, if you'd like. But collectively, 3 departments are looking for the Board of Selectmen to say, how would you like to proceed moving forward? Do we want to follow the standards or not?
Linda?
Yeah, I just, when we do any, give any permits out today, do we make sure that they have a road to access so that we don't get into this problem that we got right here, right now? So if we said, if we don't do this, am I correct that 23 cannot be built?
No.
They can still build, and we'll still issue a building permit, even though it won't meet, and you can't issue a number because it's going to be off the lane.
There's a couple of things in play here. Some of you may have heard of 674-41. 674-41 says that we cannot issue a building permit that does not have road frontage on a lot. Look at 23. It has frontage on Ferber Lane. So 674-41 doesn't apply.
So we have to somewheres put in their access off of a road.
Correct.
In our, if you would say our ordinance is missing one key component, you have to have access from that road, because that's the only problem with 23.
Well, that's not necessarily true. In order to create a lot, you have to have frontage and lot area, but you're not required to have access from your frontage.
Well, then we're just going to keep on getting into these problems.
Well, it's exactly why I'm suggesting now's the time to determine what we're going to do. When Lot 23 first came in with the building permit, I said, oh, great, I have to find an address between Lot 30 and Lot 25. But there is no odd number between 149 and 151. I cannot, under the addressing standards, I cannot say 149 Beach Pond Road rear, for example. There are towns that have done that. I'm not going to say it complies with the addressing standard. Insofar as both 149 and 151 actually take access off the same driveway that would serve Lot 23, that is, under the addressing standard, a driveway that needs a name. I completely understand it from a 911 standpoint why the driveway needs to be named, but I have also seen more and more instances where somebody has come to me and said, well, it has a name, it has to be a road. No, it's a named driveway.
So I have a question for you. What's between 25 and 23? Is that lot 24?
No, it's a portion of Lot 22.
It's a portion of lot 22.
Yeah, Lot 22
Goes between those.
goes
Around 23 on both sides?
around 23 both sides, and actually Lot 22 is large enough under the current zoning for probably 4 or 5 houses of its own, which would all then be addressed off the same driveway.
Because I saw the dotted line, and I thought the dotted line was showing a sideline for 22.
No, I get you. The dotted line is actually how the tax map is attempting to indicate. I think that's actually Google Earth attempting to show where there's a road.
Okay.
But by deed, there is simply a 20 or 30 foot wide easement that goes right up the middle of, functionally the middle of Lot 22.
So if you make it Lady Slipper Lane, you can only do that if there's 3 houses on Lady Slipper Lane?
No, if a driveway services 3 homes, you're required to name the driveway.
Okay. But if it only services 1, you're not required to?
Correct.
Can the town require them to name it?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Under 231-133 and 231-133.
So we can say that that is now Lady Slipper Lane, and that house back there is 28 Lady Slipper Lane, after we have a public hearing?
No, we can do that anyway. Tonight's question is the town going to require 149 and 151 Beach Pond Road
To change
to
it.
become 2 and 3 Lady Slipper Lane?
Yes, you're changing their address is no longer going to be Beach Pond Road, it's going to be Lady Slipper Lane.
Because their access goes out to the side on both those lots.
Correct.
And if this lot isn't built, you said 3 on a lane needs to be, you said that if there are 3 lots using a lane or a driveway, then it needs to be named. If that lot 23, which is on our thing, didn't come in, 30 and 25, which are on Beach Pond, would not have to change their address.
Technically, they're both wrong now, but it's becoming more of an issue when that driveway has to be named and there's 3 structures on it.
So are we saying that emergency always comes in the driveways? I mean, you got a road right out in front.
I'm going to turn this one over to 911.
Doesn't lot 25 on Beach Pond Road, isn't the driveway actually not on Beach Pond Road, but on that right-of-way?
They have a form of a driveway that comes off Ferber Lane, but it's not a formal driveway. I think that was established when they rebuilt their deck.
But it looks like, I know having going to the dump up there, I think Bob Brown used to live there.
Yeah.
That the driveway comes off of that Lady Slipper Lane and there's under the house garage.
Yeah, 30 and 25 both come off of Lady Slipper Lane with a driveway.
That's why they want to, I would say that's why they should legally change their address to
Right.
Lady Slipper Lane, because,
That's what I'm getting
yeah,
to.
yeah.
So the same thing happened to me before we lived in Wolfeboro, we lived in Newton, New Hampshire, and I bought a lot in a brand-new subdivision, and my driveway came from my house all the way out to the main road, and I was 35 Smith Corner Road. Then the new subdivision came in front of my house, my driveway moved, and I became 60 Willamine Drive. And then I subdivided my lot, and another house went beside me, and I became 62 Willamine Drive. So I lived in a house for 10 years, and I had 3 addresses. So this happens all the time, and if 25 and 30 have to change to Lady Slipper Lane, then they just got to change. And it's for the safety of the people that live in the house.
Tavis, I got a question. Lot 22, the large lot there, does that have deeded access to Ferber Lane? Do you know?
Lot 22 does not have access to Ferber Lane.
That does not, so
No.
say technically if they had a house, there's not currently a house on 22, right?
Correct, there is
It's
not a
empty.
house on 22.
So they would be off this Lady Slipper Lane too if they came in for a building permit.
Correct.
Yep.
And by land area, I believe we figured that there were probably 3 or 4 home lots that could be carved out of 22.
Carved out, subdivided out, yeah.
Which is all the more reason why we can't just call it for Lady Slipper Lane. It has to go by the distance of the standard, because depending on where the houses go, you have to have enough numbers left to address correctly.
Right.
And I know it's a pain. You have to change your driver's license, you got to change out, your electric bill, your gas bill.
Your checks, your passport.
Yeah,
your-
people are not
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, when they came through, we changed names and roads all over the place, and the public wasn't happy. So I'm looking at this and just saying, is there any other way around it? There may not be, but we
Well,
should try everything I
It's not,
can.
it's not only for the current residents too, because eventually those houses will sell. And then somebody else will be in those houses. It's for future
25
safety too.
Lot 25 or 151 Beach Pond Road is in the hardest position. Because when I talked to her, I said, well, is there any way you could put a driveway off of Beach Pond Road so that your frontage would actually be on Beach Pond Road? She might physically be able to do it. It wouldn't work with the garage. But then I talked to Steve Randall, and he said if you have a named driveway here and a street here, you can't really have another curb cut because there's only about 150 feet in between them. So you're almost adding confusion by trying to avoid changing
Right.
your address. So I have not heard from 149 Beach Pond Road directly. I've heard through 151, please don't make us change.
Yep.
But police and fire are here, E911 are here if you have any more
Yep.
questions or need for explanation on what drives this process.
I don't know, did you have something you wanted to add to us? Add to this at all, or?
Come on,
Yeah, you did.
Nice to meet you in person, Zachary.
Hi, guys. Oh, I'm dropping buttons here. So just for the record, my name is Zach Branscombe. I work for the Department of Safety within the Division of Emergency Services and Communications in their mapping and data operations section. So to start with, I have some imagery that I can offer you guys that may help. I have driveways drawn on with the new houses. So those are the originals, and here's our proposed. So our agency would support this change and, in general, would support changes of this kind. Addressing tends to be rather long-lasting if done correctly. It doesn't go bad, it doesn't rot There's no reason to believe that the addressing that you guys are putting in place won't exist for another 200 years. And so even in cases where it may be possible to skirt the recommendations or find things that technically work but aren't ideal, for longevity and making fewer changes moving forward, we recommend adhering to the standards of making sure that every house that's accessed off a way is addressed off of that way. You have a great fire department, a great police department, and I'm sure if this was sent out and provided and said, hey, these houses are on Lady Slipper Lane, but they're actually Beach Pond Road addresses, excuse me, they would adapt, and there's a good chance they'd be able to find them. But oftentimes, the people that are serving your communities, especially in a mutual aid situation, won't be those that are native to Wolfeboro. So, you may have to call in help from neighboring towns if Wolfeboro's fire department is pulled to another town or a large event. And in those cases, you're going to end up with people who are relying on addresses that follow a standard. Now, the statutes don't require that you follow our standard. They require that you have a standard. We provide that to towns. We encourage you to follow it, and we're here to help you make sure that it works. We can provide resources and assistance in the process of a change, as well as helping to explain to residents why a change is necessary. To be fair, it is not generally very popular.
Yes, that's what we know.
Absolutely. But more and more throughout the country, not just in New Hampshire, agencies are running into situations where non-standardized or confusing addressing is causing problems. Okay? There is one event that was significant in New Hampshire, significant enough that it made the news. That's not to say that there aren't a lot more near misses. The people that are maintaining the phones are incredibly diligent. I can speak for New Hampshire 911. We go through triple verification on addresses. They see it, we read it, and then we read it back to the dispatcher when we're going through. So there's these redundancies. But if somebody that's from out of town thinks they're on Beach Pond Road, or they think they're on Ferber Lane, it can cause problems. And when things go wrong in emergency services, it can be very serious. So as uncomfortable as it makes people to do address changes, makes towns to assert that kind of authority, because it is uncomfortable. That's not, I imagine, what you're generally here to do. This is genuinely a life safety issue.
I have a question and a comment.
Sure.
One comment I found out when I talked to Zachary today is 20 years is the time frame for them to map every single town in New Hampshire. That's the amount of time that they've spent finishing up this entire project for 911 mapping in the state. That's amazing that a core group of people have had to spend that much time. The second one, the question I have, is probably better for Tavis. Ferber Lane, why is it not accessible to 23? Is it because it is a non-passable road? Is there a deed restriction in place, or what's the reason?
The short answer for that is the subdivision that created Ferber Lane contemplated a private road for those lots only. It also contemplated, Ronald and Junebug or whatever. That was a separate subdivision that came off of Ferber. But in that case, all the land was controlled by one person. Phase one, if you want to call it that, was Ferber Lane. It had X number of lots on it.
Okay.
So it's a private road. It's not a private road contemplating town road status, at least as far as I've heard. But it's a private road. There is no formal association. But when the property owners, either individually or collectively, were contacted by this now 28 Lady Slipper, said, no, you don't get our road. And I believe that occurred even when Lot 23 was created. When it went to the planning board wanted to make sure there is a deeded right-of-way from Beach Pond Road. Why at that time it didn't go down the rabbit hole, if you will, I don't even know if 149 and 151 Beach Pond Road were currently there when that right-of-way occurred. I'm not sure who addressed 149 and 151 Beach Pond Road, because technically if they're coming off a separate drive, it could have been caught at that point. Unfortunately, it's the current owners. And I know this is uncomfortable, that's why we're here. You know, most of these conversations happen on the first floor, not the second floor.
I also found out today that if you look at all these back lots, the ones that are listed, some of these may now have different numbers and may conform, and there could potentially be others in town that aren't on this list, because this list is from 2013, and as I said, they've been working on this for 20 years, so they do a town every 6 months or whatever, and it takes them forever to do this. So we're not even sure, looking at this, if, say, on Center Street, these are all numbered the same way as in this book. There could be changes.
Well, no, earlier tonight, I was introducing Zach to Jim.
Yeah.
Jim lives in Alpine Meadows. Alpine Meadows has, I'll say, atypical addressing on it. I pointed it out to Zach, he pulled it up, he looked at the numbers, and he went, wow, that should be on the list. So things are always changing.
Correct.
You want to compound this a little bit more, one of the more recent addresses that was added was on Brewster Heights. For those that can picture Brewster Heights Road, you turn up Pleasant Valley Road and there's a big loop, but there's also a spur that goes off to the right.
Yep.
Well, that spur, by current standard, should have a different name, and the house that's on the left of said spur should be an even number, not an odd number as it currently is.
Yep.
Compound it further, 2017, the legislature said every single family home is now able to have a duplex. If you follow the numbering standard, there's room in the numbers. But many Wolfeboro subdivisions, they went up the right side and said 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, went right around. Now we're forced to say your unit 3A or 3 Brewster Heights Unit A, 3 Brewster Heights Unit B. So there is a way to account for it, but there's not a clear way to do in the addressing standards is address this, pardon the pun, differently than what we're looking for tonight. So as I pointed out in the memo, tonight isn't to require an address change. Tonight is to see if the selectmen want to further the statute and move down that path. Happy to put together a separate memo, outline who needs to be notified under the statute to have a public hearing and have a public hearing to effectuate that. Or if you would like to say, thank you for the information, let's go with 28 Lady Slipper Lane and we'll leave 149 and 151 alone.
I just think I'm with, I think Luke, I think and Brian, I think we just have to do it for safety reasons. I don't like to do it, but I think we need to hold the public hearing and go forward. I mean, we'll have some people who are not going to be pleased, but
Two
I
of them
think in
anyway.
terms of safety,
Two of them anyway.
definitely two of them.
Tom, did you want to add something?
Just a bit of a food for thought as we contemplate this. I think Tavis and Zach kind of laid it out quite well. But one of the things that comes into play here with this consistent system is it provides us with a lot of information. And I'll use this as an example. We're talking about 28 Lady Slipper Lane. What does that tell me as a responder? If you know the system, 28 is the number, we're going to cut that in half because we number the even and the odd side of the road, and those are 50-foot increments. I've got 14 50-foot increments. I can get a supply line there with one engine because it's 700 feet. And if you're familiar with the system, there's a hydrant approximately at the corner of Beach Pond Road and Ferber Lane. Can that be important to us? Sure it is. And that's, I mean, I was the guy who said after I got out of school, I'd never use math again. I mean, we do this on the way to a call, but it only works if the numbering system is consistent. And I would reiterate, obviously we have existing situations like this and have had them for a long time. Obviously we're familiar with that. But I would point out, and I think Tavis mentioned it, that there is, there's always a possibility that a responder to an incident at that location is a mutual aid department who doesn't have that familiarity. We go to the street, Beach Pond Road, then we look for the number at the end of the driveway. Sometimes the house is right near the road, sometimes it's set back, but that gets us in the ballpark. Obviously, we do have situations around town that aren't consistent, and I think we've kind of come to the conclusion, I know I have in my involvement over the years in addressing, has been, we have these guidelines, we're going to make, let's, going forward, keep it as compliant as we can make it. Obviously, we're not going to revisit North and South Main Street and stuff like that. We understand that. But as new subdivisions come forward, as these kind of things develop, I think it behooves us all to be consistent. And I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Tom. I just say, I think I agree with Linda. I think we need to probably do this the proper way, get these addresses the way they need to be for the E911 system. And we just, I know we can't fix them all at the same time and stuff, but if we have our protocols set and how we're going to deal with it, then as they pop up, we can address them, and it's eventually knock these off one at a time and, make it easier for everybody in the long run. It's my opinion. Anybody else comments?
It would be good to get the memo that Tavis said he would put together for us, then we'd know exactly.
Yes, I was just reminding myself that I promised you a new memo. So what I'll do is put together a memo probably for a March meeting. What I'm hearing is generally the reluctant direction to move forward with the public hearing. I would anticipate that maybe the April 3rd meeting. That gives plenty of time for all the notice people could possibly want.
Okay.
Allow time to answer questions, et cetera, between the property owners, et cetera. If that's amenable to you, we'll take that direction and go from there.
And I was talking to Zach earlier too, and it came to my head, and I said, I wonder if there's a way, and it would have to start with voluntarily with the realtors in town, that when a property comes up for sale, that we cross-reference it against this list. If it has a number that's out of compliance, I'm wondering if when a new owner takes over a building, that's when we can make the correction, so that the new people moving in, they come into the house with now a compliant number. I don't know if it's possible. It would definitely be a voluntary thing that we could have happen with sales. It's nothing we can force police or anything like that, but it might start correcting things slowly as we go.
I would answer that with a maybe.
Yes, it is a maybe. It was just a thought. I'm like, because changing somebody's address when they live there, we know that that's contentious. But if somebody's moving out and they're number 13 and they should be number 12, if the new owner comes in at 12, it's okay, because they're changing everything once then for their new property, their new everything, they're all done.
And if we can pull that off, that would make sense, and I think what you're saying, it may be, but it may be
It would
difficult.
just be a guidance to the realtors in town is all we could do. We couldn't do it if somebody from, a realtor from Massachusetts is selling a house to somebody in New Jersey. But we could ask the realtors in town to list houses, to cross-reference it, and let the town know if there's an issue with the number, and then maybe the board could take and address that so that when the sale goes through, it is numbered correctly.
So the reason I say maybe is hypothetically, if you're in a neighborhood where the evens are on the left and the odds are on the right, and there are enough numbers, I'll say missing, you could correct from 15 to 19 or from 15 to 21. But if the entire neighborhood is
wrong,
backwards,
it's not going to, you can't fix it.
or if you're on the east end of North Wakefield Road versus the west end, to fix it would be changing the entire road name and everyone on that segment.
Correct.
So
Well,
that's a really big maybe.
I know ambulances have ended up on the wrong side of that road.
Anyway.
So I think we're also here tonight to talk about this one. So is everybody in agreement? Do we want to possibly hold a public hearing and address it that way and do it
Okay, thank you much.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is the 2024 ambulance contract.
So you have in your packet a copy of the proposed ambulance contract, a couple of items within there. One is an option for a one-year extension, which is probably going to be a good thing for us moving forward to ensure that we have ambulance coverage. We need to make that decision by the end of August, and it has a stipulation relative to potential up to 4% increase. The other thing that is included in it, and it was updated to you this afternoon because the original one was incorrect, we've never had a copy of what the rates are. So we now have a copy of what the rates are based on advanced life support versus basic life support, so that the citizens know this is what it costs for an ambulance ride. Now, with that said, there is incremental costs, for loaded mile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's also my understanding that legislation may have just passed in the state of New Hampshire, which authorizes the ambulance provider to bill patients who are not transported. So, for example, just from my days back doing that, if you had a diabetic emergency and you started an IV and gave a person appropriate medication to bring them out of that diabetic emergency, there's no need to transport that patient, but the EMS providers have had a period of time on scene and they've used supplies. There's now a mechanism to be able to bill for that, as opposed to previously the only way you could bill for it was to transport them, and that overloads the hospital, and it's not necessary. So there's been some good moves with legislation there. The other big news on legislation regarding the ambulances is there's language out there now that people who file a claim with their insurance, that bill from the insurance company, the check actually gets cut directly to the ambulance provider as opposed to now some of them cut that check to the patient, and that obviously can become problematic depending on the timing of bills. And I didn't realize I'd get paid for going to the hospital, and then a couple weeks later you get a $2,000 ambulance bill. So good news on this stuff. I think Linda had some questions that I believe the chief had answered for her, and if there's other questions, the chief is here to be able to answer.
Yeah, I still have a question on number 2 of the contract, and it says, and I'm talking about the ambulances, and it says here, we have one 24-hour designated for Wolfeboro, and that the other ambulance may be used to provide mutual aid to surrounding communities or provide services to Huggins Hospital. When they're saying, or provide services to Huggins Hospital, that means a transport.
Transfer
To another, yes, transfer to another hospital. So that ambulance could be out for a while.
Right.
And I'm trying to say that is the same wording that's in our contract now.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That wording was, I'll say, adjusted, I think, a couple of contract cycles ago.
Okay.
What we were trying to do then and maintain today is, in that case, where it's one of the ambulances is sent out for a transfer, they will backfill another ambulance. The language is designed to give us a little bit of flexibility. For example, if we're tied up at some of the more common addresses in town, for example, Wolfeboro Bay Rehab, we go there quite often. If it's, I hate to use the word routine in these things, but it's a routine transport with a fairly quick turnaround time, by the time the backfill ambulance gets to Wolfeboro, they're back in service. It's going to take them longer to come from Meredith or another location than it is to bring the patient to Huggins, transfer the patient, clear, and be back in service. So that language was introduced as a way to give stewards and us some flexibility and to be able to use some common sense, rather than starting an ambulance from, say, the base in Meredith for a call that's going to be over in 15 minutes. They're not even going to get to Wolfeboro. Rather than try to create that drain on the system, that is the intent. But the intent is we will have 2 dedicated ambulances, and when one of them is used for a transfer, the second one is on the way.
Here's a blanket question for you. Is there anything in this contract that is different than our previous contract?
On the advice of the town attorney, we've literally cut and pasted some of the paragraphs because they didn't flow real well, because that contract had been in existence in its essentially the same form, probably close to 30 years. And as it changed providers and stuff, we renumbered it because there were paragraphs that were deleted 15 years ago that never got renumbered. But the language in general is identical. I did some of the editing. We literally cut and pasted it. We didn't change it. We put qualifications in one paragraph where they made sense. We put other requirements in a single paragraph on the advice of the town attorney. But the language, other than the fee, is essentially identical.
So it works exactly like our previous contracts?
Yeah, again, with some of the paragraphs moved around, but yes.
Can the service rates be put in the contract, not on the back page?
Well, I think that's just a matter of
It should be referenced as.
It is part of the contract.
And also,
It's part of it, yeah.
Also, my other question was,
believe there's a reference to
while
it
we're
in
doing
it.
a new contract, you know, I know we've asked stewards before, but it would be really nice to have some real financials from them on what they charged, even for the last year.
I was,
We have a good opportunity. They're still going to be signing a new contract with us for $750. And, you know, we're going to be, you know, looking at ambulance service again and, you know, having a warrant article out there for, you know, putting together a plan to help us understand what we're getting into. It would be really nice to try to pressure them, or to put a little bit of pressure to get some financials from them. I mean, if you're buying a business, for instance, you know, you would never expect to go to somebody and not be able to get their financials. I don't need everything. But, you know, I'll talk about it in a second, but, you know, I went over to Alton and they gave me all their financials for their ambulance service without me even asking. I showed up over there and they were like, I know it's a municipality, that's what we'll talk about, but it'd be nice to ask them again if we could get some numbers, some real numbers.
and I was kind of coming at it in a different way, is that, and I would, if they aren't interested in giving us numbers, tell us how many ALS emergency bases they've done in a year, in a month.
We have that info. If you read the contract, they provide it on a monthly basis.
Okay, it needs to be, I think it needs to be reported to us as the Board of Selectmen. We can do the calculation, because I think we have the rate over here, because I think what we need to do is educate the public on what's happening right now and what the costs are on a basis, and I think that's what you're getting after. And I agree with him. I think that would be good for the public to
I
hear.
don't think we have any objection to asking. I don't know that we can mandate what they supply us. You know, we're dealing with a private company versus a municipality, where it's subject to, you know, right to know and everything else.
Yeah.
But we have some base rates here. It must be based on time, too, at all?
Mileage.
That mileage, okay.
Now, keep in mind, and I think the
could
manager had
calculate
alluded
some
to
of
it,
that.
those rates are what they would charge. That doesn't mean that's what they collect.
Not even close to that.
Correct.
I mean, insurance is insurance. If you've ever
I
gone to
got
the
that.
emergency department and saw the bill and then saw what insurance paid, and
Absolutely.
it's the same idea.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to get where Luke is,
So,
to get
for
some.
instance, I'll be discussing this in a second, but, you know, Alton gave me this. They billed out $1,090,000 in 2022 and received $305,000 in reimbursables. So they're getting about a third of what they bill out.
Which is what we've already talked about. I think that's the number Jim gave us a long time ago.
Yeah, that $300,000 number, I don't think was far off from what we had estimated.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just interested in making sure we're talking about it month after month, and they hear it, and.
So what
we
would be
can-
interesting is to see how many calls Alton had
1,100.
compared to how many calls we've
1,500.
had,
Yeah.
and what the end up, their net cost is $700,000.
All the numbers are in here. You'll get a copy of this.
Yeah, so
I just wanted to bring it up before, because I'm not going to be at the next meeting, and then it's the election, so I just want everyone to see.
If their net is 700, and so if we have to increase our calls to 1,500, increase our price up to 1.3 million, increase ours up to $400,000, do we end up with $800,000 or $900,000 in expense running our own system? That might be it. We're going to be at $780,000 next year if we have the full 4% increase. And let's not think we're only going to have 1%, because that ain't happening. We're going to have that full 4% increase, I'm sure. And then it's going to continue. There will be a break-even point in time when it is going to be cost-effective for us to have our own service. I'm glad that Stewart's is granting us a 1 more year reprieve. That's a big piece for us.
So, moving forward, do we want to make a motion to authorize Jim and Tom to sign this contract?
Sure, I'll second that motion.
You knew you made it, right?
Yeah, I did. So that was a motion to authorize the town manager and the fire chief to sign proposed 2024 contract with Stewart's Ambulance Services. Seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let's see. Next on is the Wolfeboro Waters letter to the Lake Winnipesaukee Association.
Yes,
Linda?
I handed out to you before the meeting a revised letter. We spent probably an hour tonight looking over the draft that I gave you, and we removed from the initial letter the retention pond at Foss Field in Wolfeboro Shopping Center. And the reason we did that, we had a better understanding is when we identify the different projects, they will do a concept design. And we looked at where these projects were in terms of being on our CIP or us talking about the future of a project moving forward. Right now, there has been no discussion on the retention pond at the Foss Field Shopping Center in terms of looking at nutrient load. It was a design in which you would do multiple ponds going down, and its price tag looked pretty high to us, even though it might have a good removal of nutrients. We removed that. We felt that we would keep the Wolfeboro Bay Town docks and boat ramps because that's already in our planning. It is our 4th phase down in that area. It will be a large project, but we thought that if they did a conceptual kind of design, it would give us some ideas of how we might be able to do some nutrient removal down there. We kept the South Main Street one on from before, and we we took off the Main Street downtown, which was to put more trees and planters and bump outs at the crosswalks. We felt that that would come when the town addressed the master plan chapter on transportation that had that design for bump outs. So we removed that, and instead we put the Back Bay boat ramp. And the reason we did that is that was one that had a possibility of a high nutrient removal. It didn't look like a very expensive project in comparisons to the other. And we know we have a drain pipe that it dumps the water right out into the lake. And this last summer, it looked like decaying leaves, but it just looked ugly. And if we put a sump and a catch basin, that would be caught and not go out. So we kind of did it as in degrees. The first one would be most expensive. The second one would be not as expensive as the first, and the third one would be less expensive. So we spent, would you say, close to an hour
Oh, yeah.
trying to...
Just on this subject, yeah.
Just trying to sort and make sense and understand. So that is the recommendation of the committee. And then the other items that are on here, the green Walgreens parking lot is addressed with the new construction of the supermarket, and the other 3 paragraphs are written by our Public Works Director. So I would like to get the board's approval for me to give this to Amy and have it put on town stationery and send it off to the Winnipesaukee Association. That means that they'll do conceptual designs, and it's really conceptual, minimal design of these 3 projects.
And those conceptual designs, too, open up the door for them to apply for whatever available grants are
319.
available through DES to help go toward these projects, too. So it has a dual purpose, as far as
Yeah.
getting a project moving and also looking at financing to help offset some of the town costs.
Is
Any
it-
questions?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Luke, seconded by Dave. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I beat David.
Other business. Do we have any other business this evening? Linda?
Yes. I would like to see if we could get a meeting, I was hoping next Wednesday, the 28th, to go over the non-public minutes. We are not going to do that at the end of a long meeting. We've had it a number of times on our packet, and I would like to do it with this board. I don't know how the elections would go, but it really should be
Let's do it
done.
March 13th.
Yeah. So I don't know what your schedules are like, whether that's the date, but I would like to do it before the election.
What day you said?
It's next Wednesday, the 28th.
28th.
Send me an email.
Hold on.
I know
I think I have some.
I'm available if I'm free that whole day.
I'm available.
Hold on.
Okay?
I could do, I have a 3 PM, that'll probably run till 4:30 and an hour back, so if anything after 5.
Yeah, so we
10 in the
do,
morning.
I could go before that, though.
I mean, 5 o'clock, it's just after we've run a meeting and then to go through it. I
5
mean,
o'clock, okay?
If we did it at 5, we could get
5
it.
o'clock?
Yeah, shall we do it
here?
at 5? Up here? Yep.
That's dinner time.
I'll
Brian,
send
well, that's
you all
why
an
you're gonna bring
invite.
food.
what was that, Jim?
I'll send you all an invite right now.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect, then I won't put it on. Okay. And let me know, Amy gave us a packet almost a month ago of all the
Right.
non-public minutes. If you can't find it, let me or Amy know, we'll get it to you before the 28th.
You said 5 o'clock, right?
5 o'clock, yep.
Maybe just send it out to everybody, just so everybody has a copy. Can we do that? Can Amy send it out to everybody?
Or she could, I'll have her do how about a packet then?
Pick a
Yeah.
packet, yeah.
Yeah.
Determine,
Then to have her
location
make
to
it-
be determined.
Yeah, so have to make sure this is available, if not, somewhere else, yep. Okay, any other business?
Yeah, so Brad, I did want to just give a couple more takeaways from this. I was interested, and I did go over and meet with the Alton Fire Department. They run their own EMS service right out of the fire department. They currently have 3 ambulances. They run a 24/7 fire EMS, 12-hour shifts with, and the chief can correct me, I'm sure he knows a little bit about Alton, but with 2 firefighters, EMT on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. The takeaways I got is they had about 1,100 calls for service in 2023. Those are total calls, fire and EMS. They're going to be looking to expand over there to 4 staff on per shift in the very near future, or that's their goal. They pay for all their equipment, ambulances, cardiac monitors, and general supplies are paid out of the revenue that is billed every year. That's how they do their budget. They transport patients to Huggins, Wentworth, Douglas, and Portsmouth. And there's very few instances that they could remember over the last few years where they, with the staff they have, 2 guys on, they got to make the calls sometimes, whether they bring an ambulance or a fire truck. Like, they have a very good on-call system, I guess. So someone's usually coming in, but there's been very few instances over the last couple of years where they need to use mutual aid that many times to back up when they're potentially transporting to Portsmouth for a cardiac situation. And they gave me all their billing information. They pay Comstar 5% for their services, and they billed out about $1 million, $1.1 million in 2022, and received $300,000. So Jim has a copy of this. I'll give a Chief, did you get a copy of this? Did Amy send you a copy of this? You can have mine. Just, so it was interesting, and I think it gives, I hope that when whoever we hire to do the survey just looks at our neighbors, because they're obviously good resources
Right.
for us.
Well, we could also give them that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have it, why make them go get it? Let's just give it to them.
Yeah, and I had talked to 8 to 10 different, I didn't get all their information, but I have a whole notebook of notes. I've talked to 8 to 10 different towns in New Hampshire that have their own fire-based system, and everything is pretty much consistent. You can look at the number of calls they have and what it costs and how much they bill and how much they get back. It's not really rocket science, and because it's the same in most communities.
I just think the more information we can give the people when we're going forward, 'cause
right.
it's going to be a big sell no matter
Yeah,
what, but
I'm
at least
with
if we
you.
can give them all the information
Yep.
and speak, and speak thoughtfully about it as well.
I just hope that the survey that we get brings more to the table than I can just get myself.
We're not getting a survey, we're having them do an analysis.
And, well, the analysis. I'm just hoping that it brings more to the table than I've already found.
And I think what Luke just did here is exactly what we do, and if you have some more information, I think we just have to keep it out there in the public and talking about, and all the ways we're trying to look at it, so that they realize that we take this very serious, because it's going to be a big hit no matter which way we go.
Yeah.
Any other business?
Looking at it either way, I see it as $1 million project for the town in 3 years, one way or another, whether we contract or we have our own.
I don't think you're off.
Committee reports. Brian?
I had to miss an EDC meeting, but I got on the phone with the chair and spent an hour and a half talking to her about the whole meeting, and she updated me on everything that was going on. So I feel like I managed to benefit from that. And I just went to a Heritage Committee meeting before I came here, downstairs to upstairs. That's the only two I had.
Luke?
I had a police commission meeting last week.
I did end up going to that EDC meeting, and we talked about Winnipesaukee Day, but the other thing we got into is trying to take a look at housing and, the shortage of employees, and there was some discussion about the small houses and whether that is an option for Wolfeboro, because what we really need to do is find something that'll bring employees in. And I think, and this is my personal opinion, one of the things is we build a house here and somebody in Massachusetts sells their house, come up and pays big money for it. You start getting smaller houses, nobody's going to sell a big house and go into a mini house. That may be something that we can get so that we have some houses for our workforce, which is where I think our biggest problem is. And Brad and I spent some time today at Wolfeboro Waters. That's all I have.
We just had a house that's being built in my neighborhood, and I think it's 780 square feet. And they're from Connecticut. So it's like...
I think they're talking about, 400 square feet. I mean, they're talking teeny.
Yeah, this is a
Tiny
tiny
houses,
little
yeah.
thing.
Tiny houses.
Yeah, I had a planning board meeting last night. We talked about a workload for the summer, and what we're going to try and present for next year, working on different things. Wolfboro Community TV this morning, and this afternoon, obviously, had the Wolfboro Waters Committee with Linda here. I did also, probably should talk about this under other business, but just want to let anybody that's watching TV know that Tuesday, the 27th, is going to be the candidates' night right here. I'm sure that some of these guys, you guys probably know about it anyway and stuff, so
Have fun.
be moderated by Randy Walker. All the contested seats will be invited to sit down and answer questions and talk. So I just want to let people know that Tuesday evening here, the candidates' night. Dave?
What time is that, Brad?
I believe it's at
6:30 to
6:30.
Yeah, 6:30 to 9.
9:30.
Okay, the only meeting I had was Conservation Commission. Always interesting.
Okay. Town managers report.
Just a couple things. First of all, I would just like to welcome and introduce our new police chief, Chief Warren. He is here this evening for his first Board of Selectmen's meeting. Chief, welcome. Thank you. Couple of other quick items. We're working, I believe next week is the bid opening for the South Main Street project. One of the things that's being discussed with that is as that project unfolds, due to timing of staff and the way the workflow normally happens, we will most likely paint sidewalks. We don't know if we're going to be able to paint parking spaces because of the construction. More to follow. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that sooner than later. Another item is, in my notes to you, I had asked the board if they would allow staff to pursue a temporary alcohol permits for the Pop Whalen Arena. Going forward, there are some events that people have reached out to the director about holding there. One of them was a comedy night. One of them was a dueling pianos event. And another one was a craft beer event. So the question I have for the board is, we have authorized beer and wine to take place at the lodge, the Abenaki Lodge, and certain places at the lodge. Is this something that you would be interested in letting the staff pursue to give you a draft of what an ordinance may look like and what the criteria would be to be able to have beer and wine at the arena?
Linda?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that, but I would like one condition that there's no kids program going on, that it's a totally
Absolutely.
adult situation. That's my main.
Sure.
You know,
I would not envision this being something where, you know, you could do it while a child's hockey game is going on. No, this would be absolutely
Yeah, because
an
you're going to have
adult
one
event.
of the, yeah, you don't want them to rent another room to do something else, and that's
Yep.
my,
While they're
and
there.
I think that we did that with all our alcohol.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll work with staff on that and hopefully get something to you in the next couple of weeks. And then the last item that I have is, when we started the budget season this past year, New Hampshire Municipal Association came in, gave a presentation on budgeting and whatnot, and they kind of talked about the voter's guide, and there were a couple of concerns. I just need direction from the board. Do you want me to create a voter's guide and get that in the paper, or are you happy with just the ballot? Do whatever you want me to do. I just need to know what you would like.
Linda?
What I want, if we put the ballot in or the voter's guide, I want a place where somebody can cut out all the numbers and check it, because that is what I see more than anything else. They have cut that section out and they make their choices, come in with it, and they just go down and mark the ballot. I think I like the voter's guide. I mean, we're not telling them how to vote. We're just kind of giving you a few extra words and explanation, and we'll have more educated voters.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
I'm
Other
still in
board?
favor of personally in putting a voter's guide in the paper.
You are? Yep.
Yeah. I think
Brian?
I get a lot of people asking me, when is it coming out
Yeah.
Yeah.
already?
Luke, Brian, any comment?
I think people appreciate having that, the
Yeah.
ability to get, to think about things ahead of time. It makes for a long time in the actual ballot booth if they're just doing it, there.
Right.
And if that gives them the opportunity to, think about it ahead of time and make their little notes, I think that's good, and we should continue doing it.
Yeah, we've always done it in the past. And,
Okay.
and I haven't heard anybody complain that it's bad to have the voter's guide, so.
And then we get extra printed, so some can be here at the town hall,
Yep.
and some can be at the library.
Now, the voter's guide is on the town website, correct?
It gets put in the Granite.
Why don't we put it on the town website too, and people can just print out a copy if they want?
I think we probably do. I don't recall, but we may.
Because
The-
not
The
everybody-
nice thing about the paper is it's a full size
Yeah, it's this
Right,
big piece.
just one sheet.
Whereas if you print it from the website, it's going to be quite small.
It might be small, but some people don't get the newspaper. So it would be,
Well, we're going to have stacks of
Yeah,
them
we'll have
here
stacks, yeah.
and at the library,
Yeah.
that they can get them at.
Yep.
We don't just put it in the paper, because less and less people
We
get the
need.
paper.
I would
vote
like a
on that?
motion just to, yes.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead again this year with the voter's guide.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Linda to do a voter's guide again this year. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's all I
Okay.
got.
Oh.
Questions from the press?
I just have a comment on the voter's guide. I think the earlier the better, because when you put that out there, that gives people a chance to talk about it with others, and also to ask everyone questions and get some, clarify things. So the earlier the better is what I say.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. Public input. Anybody have any comments for us?
They just say, hey, where'd they all go?
I see nothing online either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we go into non-public.
I'll second.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Linda to go into non-public. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.